If you're looking to create, grow, and sustain your wealth, download and subscribe to the Pain Points of Wealth podcast at BeBullish.com with Bob, Ryan, and Chris Payne. It's your podcast for market insights, money tips, and real talk on the economy. Download and subscribe at BeBullish.com.
This is the Cats Roundtable with John Catsimatidis.
Everywhere around the world, they come to America. Every time that flag's unfurled, they come into America.
Good morning, New York. This is the Cats Roundtable. John Catsimatidis here. What's going to happen in New York with a new mayor? We have Paul Zuber from the New York State Business Council. Nicole Maliotakis, she claims the Democrats are trying to pull a fast one and try to redistrict her seat in Staten Island. Carolyn Maloney congratulating her daughter for getting a city council seat. Governor George Pataki, Nicole Galinas, Craig McCarthy, what happened in Puerto Rico? Along with all the Democrats were down in Puerto Rico celebrating the elections. Bruce Blakeman, he's thinking about running for governor. Governor David Paterson, Ed Cox, the GOP chairman, Peter King, Nassau County, and Michael Stoller on the real estate report for New York.
Good morning, this is Mike Stoller for the Stoller Real Estate Report. So today I have my friend Ralph Bumbaka, who happens to be the regional president for Metro New York, the senior banker for commercial and consumer banking, and all the retail in the branches for TD Bank. People don't realize how big TD Bank is. Tell me a little bit about TD Bank.
Good morning, Michael. Thank you for having me here today. Yes, not only are we a top 10 bank here in the U.S., but throughout the metropolitan area, and specifically here in New York City, we are the number 2 bank here in the community. What
do you mean you're the number 2 bank in the community?
So as you mentioned, our retail presence throughout the 5 boroughs and across the metropolitan area, we are an institution that's looked upon in the communities as the place where advice and banking services are at their fingertips.
You've been with the bank, 15 years now?
Almost 17 years now.
17 years now. So that's great. Let's talk about the bank and their involvement in financing of real estate in your groups.
So one of the core principles for us here in supporting our clients, not only through small business, but all the way up into mid-sized companies in the metropolitan area, and that includes the real estate community, in supporting the growth throughout different asset classes within the real estate business.
What's your appetite today in financing of real estate?
Our appetite continues to be where we want to deepen relationships with key clients and explore new opportunities with significant clients.
Any specific type of assets that you prefer to lend on?
Affordable housing is a key component, especially here in the New York City area. Creating access to quality living arrangements is a priority.
With regard to affordable housing, the bank invests in the housing so they can get tax credits. Explain what that means.
So there are different components to the capital stack within financing a project, and the bank is a fortunate participant in new market tax credits that add a layer of financing that makes these transactions become more engaging and get to market faster.
Are you involved heavily in the construction business?
We are. That is a key specialty within the bank that we've always had since we entered the market.
And with regard to other areas, where are the other specialties in your market?
Healthcare is a major component of how we bank our clients here in the metropolitan area. Leasing, small business, as I mentioned before, is a key driver for us in supporting all of the communities throughout New York City.
Now, what about retail growth? I mean, at one time, the bank had much more branches. Are you continuing to open up new branches?
So how we show up in the communities is vital to us. And especially where we're located. So we will continue to grow and expand throughout our network, adding new clients every day.
What about asset-based lending?
Asset-based, also another component that's critical in financing companies that are at various stages of their life cycle.
Professional financing for accountants, lawyers, architects.
So important to support the professional services, especially doctors, vets, dentists, accounting firms. And so we offer a full range of short-term, medium-term, and long-term financing.
Okay, with regard to that, your loan that you like to do in your market are from $5 to $15 million, correct?
Yeah, it kind of is a broad gamut of how we lend, depending on the particular segment. So as low as short-term financing in the $100,000 range, all the way up to sizable transactions above $5 million and higher. What about the larger deals? I know you're into some of the major deals. Is that in your area, or is it a different team? No. So we do have teams that vary in size of how we apply our capital, and we try to do it in the most judicious way.
Okay, and it's nationwide financing, but your market is local.
Specifically, my responsibilities are here in the metropolitan area, which I'm very proud of how we've grown and expanded our client base. We do have a formidable brand, and you're going to continue to see us grow here in New York City.
And the focus, what do you see in 2026, to next couple of years, the focus of the bank?
So our main focus is always about how we show up, and especially around advice. I think that's one of the most critical areas that a banker can provide their clients, is giving them the proper advice, whether it's their first time buying a home, to expanding their business, to looking at retirement and how to prepare for that. So advice is at the core of how we engage with our clients.
So with regard to advice, what type of advice do you give them?
So we really try to understand the needs of the client. So listening is very important in the conversation, and understanding what their desires are, what their dreams. And based on that, we're able to tailor advice accordingly to what their plan is.
And I'm very happy that TD has my friend Ralph Pumbach there, and I hope to see you later on in the season. Thanks.
Thank you, Michael.
Well, with us today is a longtime friend of mine, Congresswoman Carolyn Maloney, and we're both here to congratulate her daughter on becoming a city councilwoman from the east side of Manhattan. Well, Congresswoman Maloney, that is great news about your daughter.
Well, thank you, John. Virginia ran on her own merit and her own vision for the district, and yes, I'm very proud to be her mother, but I'm more proud and more importantly that as a former representative, she won the district that I used to represent, to see someone with her energy, intelligence, and commitment stepping up to serve. As you know, John, I was the first woman elected to represent this district and the first woman in history to ever give birth while in office, and that child was Virginia. So to see her win this seat in 2025 shows how far we've come, but there's still so much more work to do, and she's ready to fight for affordability, safe streets, housing, quality education, good jobs. We're going to be fortunate to have her as our city council member working for us.
That is wonderful news, and congratulations again. Anything else you want to say to the people of New York?
Well, New York's the greatest city in the world, and there's a lot coming up. We've got a new mayor, and we've got a transition in Washington. Nancy Pelosi, the first woman speaker and one of the greatest in history, has retired, and she did it at a high point in her career with Proposition 50 passing in California. I served with her. We accomplished the Affordable Care Act and many other things together, so that was an exciting thing. And I want to share with you that I'm in upstate New York right now. I'm in Rochester and Seneca Falls, the birthplace of the women's rights movement, and as president of the National New York State National Organization of Women, we're having our state conference on Sunday. and discussing what remains to be done, and part of it is the Equal Rights Amendment. I'm actually right now at the Presbyterian Church where Alice Paul in 1923 introduced the Equal Rights Amendment and began now it's 102 years fight to get women's rights in the Constitution. And with the rolling back of Roe v. Wade, we now more than ever need to get equality and women into the Constitution. So that's what I'm working on right now, among many other things.
Well, I'm sure the Congress misses you. We miss you being active in the district. God bless you, and God bless America. Thank you so much.
Thank you for all your hard work.
The Cats Roundtable.
With us is Craig McCarthy, and he's just got back from Puerto Rico, celebration of all the politicians from Albany, from New York City. And Craig, what the heck happened in Puerto Rico for the last 5 days?
Well, we had every politician essentially down here from New York City, Albany. They're celebrating their election, and is a lot of fanfare here. On Thursday night, we had our mayor-elect, Zoran Mandani, came down. He did a press conference with AG Letitia James. And then, him and Hochul all did an event with DC 37. They actually had to move it from one of the indoor ballrooms to the back Rose Garden area, the garden area, where it overlooked the water. I mean, there was at least 200 to 250 people there. It was a very lively crowd. When Governor Hochul took the stage, she started getting some tax the rich chants as she got at Zoran Mandani's Queens event during the general election. But Hochul slapped it down this time, saying, the more you push me, the more I'm not going to do that. So it was an interesting back and forth, and I think a little bit of foreshadowing of what we're going to see over the next few months to years with this relationship between Zoran Mandani, who campaigned on raising the taxes for the rich, and Governor Hochul, who has said that she will not.
The number one item in New York City is quality of life. This new guy, Zoran, cannot go in and disband the sections of the police department, make it weaker, cannot appoint judges to criminal courts that are going to allow all the criminals back on the streets again. He got to do the right thing, and the governor is the only one that has a thumb and the ability to stop him.
Right, and I think Governor Hochul's influence here, as well as Kathy Wild and Hakeem Jeffries, has been to push to ensure that Jessica Tisch stays on as police commissioner. But I should note, Mandani won on Tuesday. He's down here. He was down here on Thursday. He stayed till Saturday. There's no meeting on the books yet. He told us that during a press conference on Thursday that he is still not set down. He has not offered the job formally to Tisch. He has only conveyed to her that he would like to keep her on. So the question becomes, will she stay on? I think that alleviate not just your concerns, but a lot of other people in the business and real estate community to have somebody that has a experienced leadership in the NYPD to ensure the quality of life isn't an issue.
Craig McCarthy, thank you for calling in this Sunday morning. God bless you, and God bless New York.
Thanks for having me.
Thank you for listening to the Cats Roundtable. We'll be right back right after this break.
If you're looking to create, grow, and sustain your wealth, download and subscribe to the Pain Points of Wealth podcast at BeBullish.com with Bob, Ryan, and Chris Payne. It's your podcast for market insights, money tips, and real talk on the economy.
Download and subscribe
at BeBullish.com.
Welcome back to the Cats Roundtable. With us today is Governor David Paterson. So many things are happening in our city. So many things are changing in our city. So many things are changing in our state. Give us an update. How do you feel about all the results?
Well, first I want to talk to people who are friends of mine but are Republican and remind them that in 1964, Lyndon Baines Johnson, and particularly because of the assassination of President Kennedy, he won all but 5 states. It was an absolute avalanche, and the Republican Party just seemed completely destroyed and disgusted and unable to put things together. But somehow, in the next 4 years, Richard M. Nixon gets elected president, and I was 14 years old at the time, and of course in a Democratic family. I thought that was the end of the world. I mean, I really did. And so what I'm just cautioning everyone is not to overreact. We still have elections for every 2 years and every 4 years. So if you look at the victory of Zoran Mamdani, and he surprised me because I didn't think he could come close to getting 50%, but he got 50.4% in that race. What's different about this election than the others that I just described is that the one thing that everyone knew about LBJ or about Richard Nixon is that they knew how to run a government, and they had legislative experience, and they had worked in the system before. Here is an individual that really doesn't have any experience in that realm and is going to have to go and find all the people who do. And just the other day, the fire commissioner, Robert Tucker, has resigned. He feels that his abilities will not be particularly appreciated by Zoran Mamdani because of his stand on Israel. That, to me, is the beginning of a real problem. And so when you look at why this is happening, and we, talked about it the last couple of days, it really is the fact that many groups in this country are multiplying faster than the original groups. So you now have Asians, you now have people from India, you now have people from Russia, and when they come over here, their families are bigger, and there are more of them than there are of the people who were living here. And there's nothing wrong with the people who are living here. Europeans came here centuries ago, and when they ran out of when they weren't multiplying fast enough, they went and took a herd full of Africans and brought them here as slaves. But leaving out the morality, the immorality of it, what I think is happening is that a greater number of people who did not live here are voting. Half the people that voted for Mr. Mamdani did not grow up in New York. And I'm not saying there's anything wrong with the fact that they came here, but the migration has led to this situation, which positively or negatively has given many of those people a chance to participate in our political system.
Governor, I mean, interesting that you say that, because we don't know if they had the right to vote, and if they did vote.
You know, you can always go back and check to see who should have voted and who shouldn't have voted. Hopefully, the Board of Elections in New York City had pretty good control over it. Even when I went to vote, at first, when I got there, they looked at me like they didn't even have any idea that I should be there. But I think what's more important than that, than looking back and sort of implying that people cheated, I think what's more important than that is building the type of organizations in the political parties that really will challenge Mr. Mamdani in 4 years or whenever it is. And I think that of and in itself should be the primary goal right now. Everybody has a reason why somebody, put a lot of money in and no one found it and that kind of thing. Usually, those allegations don't lead to much. But what will lead to a real big problem is if people sit back and think that that was the only reason that Zoran Mamdani won.
I understand that Cuomo came close. I understand he got a lot of votes. And I understand that our old friend Curtis Lewa got an all-time low.
He got an all-time low, and frankly, he was at an all-time low. The way he acted as disrespectfully to so many people in the last weeks of the campaign, and this yelling and screaming, and usually Curtis understands the issues, but he didn't even talk about the issues the last couple of weeks. He talked about himself, and he talked himself into 7% of the total vote. And for those who thought, if Curtis had gotten out, you could add his vote to Andrew's vote, and it would win. 41% for Andrew, 7% for Curtis. If you add it up, it's 48%, still 2.5% behind Mamdani. And I think Curtis has really got to start thinking about what he says when he opens his mouth these days, because he's really antagonized a lot of people and didn't help the possibility of keeping an Andrew Cuomo or someone like Mr. Cuomo from winning the election.
I was very disappointed in Curtis, how he was just shooting off his mouth. And, I know him for a long time. He's a good person, and it's just I was disappointed. Well, thank you, Governor Patterson, and let's pray for the best for New York City.
I'm praying. Thank you, John.
The Cats Roundtable.
Is everybody recovering? Well, with us today is Peter King. Peter, tell me, what the heck happened?
John, I think all of us are still trying to recover from a Tuesday night. It was really bad in most places. I'll start, though, with the good news. The good news is in Nassau County, we did as well as we've ever done. Bruce Blakeman led the ticket. He won with almost 56% of the vote. We won all of the towns and cities. In fact, for the first time since 1971, we actually captured every council seat, every elective office in the city of Long Beach. And that's a 6-1 Democratic enrollment. Now, there's several reasons for that. One, Bruce is a great candidate. Secondly, the Nassau organization is the best in the country under Joe Cairo's leadership. And I think what was developing around the country, and most people didn't see it, including myself, is that in the last 7 to 10 days, it seemed as if Donald Trump's popularity, his favorable, was dropping. And so like Jack Ciattarelli in Jersey, that was a 2-point race, and he ended up losing by 13. I think a difference in Nassau County was, one, Bruce was an incumbent who had done an excellent job. Secondly, the Nassau organization, which is like 1,000 committeemen who are out in the street all the time, going door to door, working in the communities. Joe Cairo had them fully mobilized, and we never let up. The campaign, there were rallies, there were meetings, there were strategy sessions. It never stopped, right up until literally 9 o'clock on election night. And that is what held it off. I don't think other states had that. Other locales had that. Now, Suffolk County also, Jesse Garcia did a great job. And he basically held what had to be done in Suffolk County. I think an added advantage just, though, in Nassau was being so close to Mandami. People realize this isn't just something we're talking about. This is right on our border. And Bruce had said he is basically going to set up a border patrol along the Nassau-Queens border to stop any kind of spillover crime or crossover crime coming in from the city. So people in Nassau saw the stark reality of what this could mean to have a Mayor Mandami tying the hands of the cops, doing nothing really to control the immigration issue. So they saw the chaos that was going to come, and that made it more important than ever to elect a Republican in Nassau County. And Bruce has done such a great job that it made it easier for us to get that out there. But I really think that, fortunately, because of Blakeman and Cairo, we were not caught unawares. I think the city...
You guys in Nassau County, you guys were right on top of it. You did the advertising. You guys were the clear winners.
Yeah, and also Ann Donnelly won. I got to emphasize that. Having a DA like Ann Donnelly, a tough, efficient, effective police commissioner, and Pat Ryder. So we were basically doing everything in Nassau that had to be done. But even with all of that, if we had ever let our guard down, as Joe Cairo kept telling us, hey, we're way ahead. We're way ahead. But nothing is more meaningless than being ahead at halftime. Unless you're ahead when the final whistle goes off or the final whistle blows, you haven't won. So we ran really, literally, I'm saying 7, 8, 9 o'clock on election night. We were out trying to get the vote, making phone calls, driving people to the polls. And that, I think, John, going forward in New York City, it's not enough just to complain like we do about, this Mandami being so bad. He is. But we have to build up a Republican organization. And I know years ago under Al D'Amato and Bill Powers and George Pataki, they built up a statewide Republican organization. They have to start doing that in New York City. It's not going to be easy. They may be still losses for a couple of years, but you've got places like Queens and Brooklyn, Staten Island. There's no reason why that isn't developing all over.
What went wrong in New Jersey? Before we talk about, we'll spend a minute. Let's spend a minute on New Jersey. Let's spend a minute on New York City. What went wrong in New Jersey?
I think it was basically an anti-Trump mood developed, a feeling that the economy was starting to go the wrong way, and Mikey Sherrill pounced on that. She ran the last 10 days of her campaign against Donald Trump. Jack Ciattarelli was a great candidate, and listen, he only lost by 3 points the last time around when he was being outspent and nobody gave him a chance. He ran an excellent campaign. I don't blame Jack Ciattarelli for any of this. I just think that they did not have the organization.
You think President Trump said that it was possibly a kickback because of the shutdown?
It could be, but that was up to Republicans to counter that. That also would have been the factor in Nassau County, but we had the organization, the candidates to keep going. I think in Jersey, Jack Ciattarelli himself was a good candidate, but I don't think they had the Republican organization that was needed to counter what the Democrats were doing. You have to have a great candidate at the top, but you have to have the ground troops on the ground doing the grunt work, going door to door, hanging in there, fighting, going all into local radio stations, local newspapers, and just nonstop joining, getting involved in the labor unions and the church groups.
Yes.
And the community organizations, and I don't think they had that in Jersey to the extent we have it in Nassau County.
Peter King, we're out of time, but I'm looking forward to discussing what happened in New York with you, and let's catch up again really soon. And thank you you guys for doing a great job in Nassau County.
Thank you, John. God bless America.
Thank you for listening to the Cats Roundtable. We'll be right back right after this break. Welcome back to the Cats Roundtable. With us today is Governor George Pataki. And Governor Pataki, a lot of things happened this week. Where do you think our city and our state is, and how does it affect the country?
I'll tell you, it was a very earth-shaking night in a lot of ways. And I, for one, am worried because particularly in New York City, we saw someone who, forget about being a Democrat, is a far left, calls himself a socialist, but I think he's more of a Marxist, is going to be the mayor of New York City. And he's going to have a city council that is almost 90% Democrat. Many of them are the far left as well. So I think we have some tough times ahead in New York City, but the only good news is that most of what Mondami's talking about doing, he can only do with the approval of Albany. And I hope that the powers that be in Albany know that this would be a disaster for New York.
Well, I would hope that the powers that be in Albany, do what they have to do to keep the lid on things. Is that the nicest way I could say it?
That's the best way to say it, But I mean, it just is very troubling to me because the Democrats had an effective message, and that was that the system's not working for us. Things are too expensive. And everybody thinks that. If you're not just young people who are out of college and have student debt and can't afford an apartment, older people trying to keep their homes, whether it's upstate or on Long Island, things are just too expensive. But what they got wrong, and what we didn't say, is the reason that things are so expensive is because the policies that they have imposed on New York. Our energy bills are higher because of some of the idiotic environmental policies they put in place. Our rents are higher because they put all these prohibitions on new building, and now they're talking about making all buildings be all electric. And so this is a fight we have to continue. We have to argue, understanding that people are upset, but they're upset, and they should be upset, but they're upset at the wrong party. And we just have to get the message across that we are the ones who have the solutions to the problems they are worried about.
We were all looking at what's going on in New Jersey, and we really, really thought that that Ciattarelli had a good chance to win New Jersey, and we were way off.
I was very surprised. I thought he had an excellent chance of winning, and it's one thing, in a close race where you might lose, but he lost by 13 points. It was a landslide against him, and I think what it told me, and I think what it's telling the country, is that if you had an R by your name, you were starting in a deep hole. And if you had a D by your name, you were starting way ahead. And that means the people of America and New Jersey and New York and across the country really wanted to see a change in direction. And I think they want to see more calmness, less of the chaotic news that happens every day. And that's what they were voting for. But as I mentioned, John, I think they chose the wrong solution. We can get this turned around for the good of the state and the country next year.
Governor George Pataki, thank you for coming on, and God bless you and God bless America. Thank you so much.
Thank you, John. Always great being on with you.
There's only one Republican seat in all of New York City in Washington. The Democrats want to go after it. With us today is Nicole Mayotakis, the congresswoman that has that seat. Nicole, fill in all the New Yorkers. What the heck is going on?
Well, during all the chaos of this last election, something happened that maybe a lot of people didn't notice. There was a Washington law firm, Democrat-connected firm, that filed a lawsuit saying that somehow my district, Staten Island, Southern Brooklyn, New York's 11th district, somehow disenfranchises Latinos and minorities, and it is completely outrageous and a frivolous lawsuit. But once again, John, we're seeing Democrats' desperate attempt to redraw the lines, not only of my district, but the other districts in New York, to tilt the scale to give themselves an advantage. And you know, we've been through this twice before. I have not run for re-election once without having to go to court to fight to preserve our congressional district. And the interesting thing is that this map was independently drawn by a special master that was court appointed after we won the initial lawsuit in 2022. And then in 2024, when the Democrats tried it again and they changed the makeup of the court and was successful in court, they actually didn't do much changing to this district, and it was signed off by our Democrat state legislature and the governor. So for this Democrat firm in Washington to now try to come in and say somehow this disenfranchises people, especially when I'm the first Hispanic elected from this district, is absolutely ludicrous. But we have to go to court, unfortunately, again, John, and fight for the voices of the people of Staten Island and Southern Brooklyn.
I'm sure we're going to win this one because of the fact that the Constitution is the Constitution. Isn't that correct?
Yeah, so they filed this lawsuit in state court, and it's funny because they say that they were doing this to protect Staten Islanders, and yet somehow they thought it was a good idea to file this lawsuit in Manhattan. But what we know is we're going to have to fight this out in court. We may have to go to all three courts in New York State, and then we also have the ability to take it to federal court because they are saying that this is race-related. And so this case has the potential of going all the way to the Supreme Court. And that's why I ask New Yorkers to support my efforts here to preserve New York City's only competitive district. And so we need to protect this district. I ask people, we're going to have a long legal battle here. Go to my website, Nicole4ny.com, and support our efforts to preserve this district. Again, it's the most competitive, the only competitive seat in the entire city of New York, and that's what they don't like about it.
And I believe that I heard from one of my friends in Massachusetts, there's not a single, not even one Republican seat in the whole state of Massachusetts. I mean, that doesn't pass the smell test either.
Especially when you see states, Massachusetts, Connecticut, New Mexico. Trump got about 40% or so in those states, and yet they don't have one congressional Republican representative. You're right. So if anybody's gerrymandering, historically, it's been these Democrat states. And even Maryland now, the governor said that they're going to put together a commission to redraw the maps to make sure they're fair when you only have one Republican in the entire state. So they're going to go after that one Republican as well. Now, look, John, I've been critical of gerrymandering, whether it's the Republicans or the Democrats doing it. When Texas came out with their plan, I criticized it and said it was wrong. Redistricting is a process that is done once a decade after the census to make sure that the districts are populated correctly. And we should not be going through this every 2 years. It's ludicrous. And it actually discourages people from running for office. So if somebody wants to challenge me today, how do they know what district they'd be running in? And it actually disenfranchises people more by having uncertainty of what your map looks like and where you would be drawn into to run for office. And so I think this is it's really unfortunate, but it's going to cost us millions of dollars. And so please go to NicoleForNY.com, support our efforts to preserve the only competitive seat. And lastly, I'll say Staten Island is represented by a Democrat district attorney. Staten Island has had 2 congressional Democrat representatives over the last decade. This is not a district that somehow is just a Republican district or drawn to be such. This has been a very competitive, as I said, for a long time now, where we've had Democrats elected. The reason why Democrats aren't being elected right now is because they're horrible and their policies are terrible. They cannot win on merit in debate, John, which is why they want to redraw our map to tilt the scale to give themselves an advantage next year.
Nicole Maliotakis, thank you so much for coming on, and God bless you, God bless America, and thank you so much for coming on this Sunday morning.
Thank you, John.
The Cats Roundtable.
With us today is Bruce Blakeman, the county executive of Nassau County. You won significantly. Ann Donnelly in Nassau County won significantly. How does it feel to win and to have your constituents acknowledge that you guys are doing a great job?
Well, thank you very much, John. I've been chief executive of a county that's larger than 10 states in population for the last 4 years. And I just applied American values and common sense principles to governing safe communities. I haven't raised taxes in 4 years, 1 penny. People like what we're doing because basically it's the same values that their parents taught them, and it's common sense. So we had a big victory. We got broad-based support. There's 110,000 more Democrats in Nassau County than Republicans, and it's impossible to win unless you get a large number of common-sense Democrats to vote for you and a large number of independent voters, and we got both. We got almost 2/3 of independent voters, and we got a large chunk of moderate Democrats who see their party going off the deep end. And, of course, we got a very, very solid and strong Republican turnout. So we won by 36,000 votes. It's a resounding victory, and I'm very proud of my team, and it's an honor to serve as the county executive of such a great county.
Well, congratulations again. Now, Bruce, there are rumors around. There's a rumor around that you'd like to run for governor.
Since election night, I've gotten calls from business leaders, political leaders, community leaders. They all are encouraging me to run for governor. And the fact of the matter is that I will consider it. I'm going to travel around the state, meet with these leaders, talk about issues. And then, of course, I think the party should nominate someone who has the best chance to win. So if I determine that I have the best chance to win, I'll throw my hat in the ring and I'll run. And listen, competition is good. It sharpens the issue.
People will wait for you to make a decision before they make any commitments to anybody else.
Yeah, we're hearing from a lot of people that this is the first time they heard that I might be interested. So they've told me they're not going to make any decisions. A lot of people who originally supported Elise Stefanik are saying that they want to see what our campaign would be like because everybody wants to win. Our state is going in the wrong direction. All the lawlessness in New York State, people are fed up. They want to change.
Bruce Blakeman, congratulations again. I think a lot of people are going to wait till you make a decision before they make a decision and go around the state and ask a lot of questions. And it'll be a speaking tour. Thank you for coming on this Sunday morning, and thank you for the great job you're doing in Nassau County.
Thanks so much, John. It's my pleasure.
Thank you for listening to the Cats Roundtable. We'll be right back right after this break. Welcome back to the Cats Roundtable. With us today is Ed Cox, the New York State GOP chairman. What are the results of what happened in New York City, New York State? I understand we now have a socialist mayor in Buffalo.
We certainly have one in New York City, a radical socialist. a guy who wants to defend the police, who is going to make education equally poor for everyone, because to get rid of the gifted course and the special
specialized
high
schools.
Yeah, look,
but he went to Bronx Science.
Yeah, exactly.
He's going to tear down the school that educated him.
Exactly. That's what he's up to. But the reason that the ultra socialists have risen to this level is that there is no national leadership that is credible, even within its own party. The Obama, Biden, Hillary, Pelosi crew, which started.
Well, Pelosi just retired.
Yeah,
and you got Newsom in California, and you have J.B. Pritzker in Illinois.
Yeah.
Governor Hochul in New York State has to make sure that New York City behaves themselves.
But look, that is no leadership. And here in New York State, the leadership, the two elected Democratic governors, both have resigned in disgrace. There is no sort of senior leadership that can guide the party in the right direction. In the absence of that, the long-suffering ultra-socialists have taken control. Their one major opponent was a really failed governor who was responsible for the pro-criminal law reforms, for cashless bail, for raise the age, for the discovery laws that made it difficult to prosecute people, and it resulted in the revolving door justice. That was Cuomo. He also obviously resigned in disgrace, and he also was responsible for the environmental laws that are raising making New York City unaffordable. With respect to COVID, he didn't really perform well, forcing COVID-infected people to be in nursing homes, and that was the opponent. That was the opponent to the radical socialist Mondani, and his people were very excited because the discredited leadership of the National Party had really rigged the 2000 nomination so that Bernie Sanders, who came in first in Iowa and in New Hampshire, and Biden, who came in almost last, guess what? The person who came in last in those two primaries that normally are definitive was actually maneuvered by the Obama crew into getting the nomination. And that really upset the socialists and the young people who are supporting Sanders, and they're taking their revenge out in New York by promoting their candidate in the absence of any strong regular opposition.
Well, I mean, that's a revolting development, as they used to say.
Look to here. This is a concern. The core of New York is its financial industry. New York is the financial capital, not just of America, but of the world. It's been that for two centuries. And it has been bleeding it. The major financial institutions, J.P. Morgan Chase, can't have better names than that, and Bank of America and Citigroup, they have all established its campuses in Texas. Texas is setting up its own stock exchange there. It's going to be operating next year. The financial community is already moving out. So the core industry of New York is on its way out, and I just don't see what's going to this Mondani, the ultra
I read
leftist.
A report.
He's going to just increase that acceleration as the financial industry moves.
I read a report that the mayor of the city of New York has lots and lots of appointments to make. What's going to happen then?
We'll have to see what they are and take a close look at them. But the important thing is what he actually wants to do. And there are a few areas where he actually has control, such as the NYPD. He wants to disband the Strategic Response Group, which is responsible for handling the tough guys like Antifa. that are sure to come in along the mobs with respect to supporting Hamas or some cause that the radical mayor likes. They'll come along and they'll start torching the city, and the NYPD will not have the people ready to stop them.
Ed Cox, make sure you go to church later and pray, and let's catch up again.
We have
real
to pray
soon.
for New York City, John.
With us is Paul Zuber, and he is Senior Vice President of the New York State Merchants Association. I mean, what do you really call it? I keep forgetting, Paul. You represent the Business Council. We got a new mayor in New York City. Is the state going to survive, or is the state going to capitulate to the city?
Well, that's a very good question, John, and I think it's even more important because there was just a study that came out by the Tax Foundation that looked at competitiveness amongst states in terms of taxes, and New York ranks 50th. We are the 50th state, number 50 in terms of tax competitiveness. And so New Jersey follows us, and then California. So we are in a problem zone when it comes to taxes. And I think what the big question will be coming into the next legislative session, 2026, is what do we do? You know, there's been all this talk about raising the corporate income tax, raising personal income taxes, but we are already behind 49 other states when we talk about our tax competitiveness. And once you start raising taxes on businesses or individuals, that's where people leave. And you know who's in the top 10 in terms of tax competitiveness? Texas and Florida. They are states that businesses will run to if we raise taxes too high. So I think the big question coming out of the race in New York City and the big question going into 2026 is, are we going to be smart about our economy in New York State? Are we going to be smart and understand that raising taxes is not a solution to providing an affordable New York for New Yorkers? Because all we're doing is we're driving out jobs, we're driving out businesses, and in many instances, those costs, those increased taxes are getting passed on to the consumer. And that's something that we have to understand. And it has to be clear to our legislators, it has to be clear to the governor that increasing taxes is not the solution. Understand how having universal child care could be a transformational issue for New York State. But again, raising taxes to do these type of things is not the solution. It is actually piling on to the problem. You know, we talk about this issue of abundance, this book that came out recently. That's an example of where we pile things on best intentions, but we're piling things on. And when we pile taxes on, we are guaranteeing that New York State will stay in the position that it currently is, where we're getting our butts kicked by Texas, we're getting our butts kicked by Florida, we're getting our butts kicked by North Carolina. And at some point, that realization has to occur, and hopefully, these dialogues that are going on now, the powers that be understand what an increase in taxes will actually do to our economy.
So we are reevaluating, and I'm sure everybody in the city and the state is reevaluating. Should we lighten up?
Oh, well, absolutely, John, because one real quick thing. People have to remember, in New York City, you also pay a business corporation tax on top of the state franchise tax, on top of a 30% MTA surcharge. So if you're a New York City corporation, you're already hit with close to like 16% in taxes. So if people end up raising the corporate tax, it's just going to put you at the 20% level, and that's not even including the 30% MTA surcharge. So we have to understand this is not a solution. This only exacerbates the problem.
Paul Zuber, New York State Business Council. Let's catch up again real soon.
All right. Thank you, John.
The Cats Roundtable.
With us today is Nicole Galinas, and she is with the Manhattan Institute. Well, Nicole, how bad a shape are we in New York?
Good morning, John. Well, there's no question that the mayoral election results, with Mayor-elect Mamdani obviously victorious, are disturbing for New York's fiscal situation. But the good news is we do have a governor who has tremendous control over New York City's finances and over the plans that Mamdani has proposed. And she has the full power and right to push back on some of his aggressive proposals, particularly the $9 billion in state tax increases that he's asked for, and also the free buses. He cannot do either of those things at all without the governor's permission and through state law. And I think she should be very clear. He didn't run for governor. He ran for mayor. And so she retains control over the state finances and over these ideas of him, just like
Nicole, there are people talking that the Socialist Party is trying to take over the entire Democratic Party, and they have a lot of influence, and that Governor Hochul might not be tough enough to go against them.
Yeah, I mean, I think the Democratic Socialists are trying to take over the Democratic Party. I don't think that's any kind of secret. I mean, they clearly want to do that, and I think you're right that without the governor being very assertive here, the issue is she has no agenda next year for her election year. His agenda becomes the state's agenda. So how does that happen? If he goes out there and says, Kathy Hochul, I just won this election. This is a mandate for free buses, and she acquiesces on the free buses. Other cities around the state, Rochester, Buffalo, Utica, any place on Long Island, are going to say, we have our own bus systems. We have our own poor people taking the bus. You should give us money so that we can also have free buses in our cities. Same thing with childcare. For state legislatures to raise state taxes on the city for childcare just in New York City, other places around say, we want this too. This is the state's tax base. This is not New York City's tax base. So he should try to figure out a way to fund his programs with his own money, which are the property taxes. But if she gives in here, she is effectively letting a mayor of New York to be setting the agenda for the entire state of New York. And you're right. I mean, there's a risk that she caves in.
So we're going to be dependent on Governor Hochul to make sure that he doesn't get out of line.
Yeah, I mean, I think that's pretty much sums it up. I mean, that's all there is to it. And you're absolutely right. She may cave in. She endorsed him. She never really scrutinized his plans.
Not only she endorsed him, he never endorsed her back.
Right, but I think the more the people like you and like us say she has this power, the voters across the state should know she has this power. As she told the Wall Street Journal a couple days ago, New York City is just a subdivision of New York State. New York City on its own does not have a lot of fiscal power. She also has to, her financial control board, which she appoints people to, that it certifies the city budget every year as balanced. This is an artifact of the fiscal crisis 50 years ago. So he purposely ran on an agenda that he can't enact himself. He kind of put himself in a trap, and she shouldn't let him out of that trap. If he wants to do things in his control, good and fine, and good luck to the voters. But when he comes saying, "Oh, I won, therefore you have to do the free buses, you have to do tax increases," this is not true. He did not win a mandate for that. If he wanted to win a mandate for that, he would run for governor.
Nicole Galinas, thank you for the update. Thank you so much for calling in, and we'll catch up again real soon.
Thank you, John.
The Cats Roundtable.
If you ever miss a segment or want to hear it again, go to WABCRadio.com, go to podcasts, go to minicast, and play back your favorite segment. Thank you for being with us for the Cats Roundtable Local Edition, the #1 show on Sunday mornings in New York. Keep listening to us for the Cats Roundtable National Edition between 9 o'clock and 10 o'clock. So we'll be back to you in a few minutes after the news.
If you're looking to create, grow, and sustain your wealth, download and subscribe to the Pain Points of Wealth podcast at BeBullish.com with Bob, Ryan, and Chris Payne. It's your podcast for market insights, money tips, and real talk on the economy. Download and subscribe at BeBullish.com.
The holidays mean more travel, more shopping, more time online. and more personal info in more places that could expose you more to identity theft. But LifeLock monitors millions of data points per second. If your identity is stolen, our US-based restoration specialists will fix it, guaranteed, or your money back. Don't face drained accounts, fraudulent loans, or financial losses alone. Get more holiday fun and less holiday worry with LifeLock. Save up to 40% your first year. Visit LifeLock.com/podcast. Terms apply.